Hello, folks. I am Alan for today's news. I will be reading and speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. First thing I got for you here is from Newsweek. It says video of Joe Biden scratching neck sparks wild conspiracy theory. A video of Joe Biden during his trip to Ireland has gone viral on social media and sparked a slew of conspiracy theories about the president being an imposter. Biden spoke to embassy staff, children, and firefighters at Dublin Airport on April 12th as he arrived in the city. During his speech to the audience at Dublin Airport, Biden was scratching his neck, which resulted in some social media users coming to the conclusion that the person speaking was not Biden at all, but an individual in the mask. Let's see what this video shows here. Now, what I want to know here, why is Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, is on the trip with him? Does Hunter Biden work for the White House, for the government? Joe Biden is probably taking his family along on the trip for a vacation at taxpayers' cost. Let me know what you think about it. Let's go to the next one. This from LGBTQ Nation. Budweiser factory cleared as angry conservatives make bomb threats over trans sponsorship.
A Budweiser factory in the Van Nuys neighborhood of Los Angeles had to be cleared of workers and swept for bombs after a threat was called in, according to the Los Angeles Police Department. One employee of Anheuser-Busch InBev, which owns Budweiser, said that the company's facilities across the country have been getting bomb threats in the wake of conservative anger over an Instagram video from 2 weeks ago. Related stories. It's called Conservative Dad's Ultra-Right 100% woke-free beer and it's weaker than trans-friendly Bud Light. The bomb threat in Van Nuys was emailed on Thursday morning, according to LAPD Lieutenant Leticia Ruiz. There was a search that was conducted in the premise of the building, but there was nothing identified as a threat, she said, adding that an LAPD bomb squad was dispatched. We did assist in clearing the perimeter of the building. Patch reports that an unnamed employee of Anheuser-Busch confirmed that other facilities were getting bomb threats as well. The source didn't say which factories are getting threats. The corporation, though, isn't commenting on the matter. The bomb threats come 2 weeks after transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney posted a sponsored video to Instagram featuring custom Bud Light beer cans that the company sent her as part of a social media partnership, an agreement that the company said they have with hundreds of influencers. Republicans have been tripping over themselves to denounce Bud Light. Senator Marco Rubio, Republican Florida, said on Sean Hannity's Fox News show last week that the U.S.'s allies will abandon the country because of the Mulvaney video. Representative Dan Crenshaw, Republican Texas, posted a video to social media announcing his boycott of Bud Light, only to get made fun of for showing his refrigerator full of other beers sold by Anheuser-Busch. Conservative musician Kid Rock shot up 4 cases of Bud Light with a semi-automatic weapon and posted the video to social media. Fox News pundit and failed gubernatorial candidate Caitlyn Jenner, who is transgender herself, accused Mulvaney of trying to erase women for a Nike partnership Mulvaney announced. Anheuser-Busch CEO Brendan Whitworth released a statement on Friday that didn't mention Mulvaney at all. We never intended to be part of a discussion that divides people, the statement read. We are in the business of bringing people together over a beer.
Okay, let's see. That's all there is on that one there. There's a letter here you can read from Anheuser-Busch, I guess. Yeah, it is. Let's go to the next one. This one here from Benzinga. End of an era. Germany pulls the plug on last few nuclear plants to make country safer.
Germany, over the weekend, shut down its last 3 remaining nuclear power plants in line with its predetermined shift towards sustainable energy sources. What happened? The RWE energy firm, in a statement on Saturday shortly after midnight, confirmed that Europe's biggest economy disconnected its last 3 reactors from the electricity grid. The end of an era. After 35 years, the Emsland power plant has been disconnected from the grid. It was RWE's last operational nuclear unit. This also marks the end of power generation from nuclear energy in Germany after about 60 years, it said. Since 2002, Germany has been mulling moving away from nuclear power, but after Japan's Fukushima nuclear catastrophe, the phase-out was hastened by former Chancellor Angela Merkel. The risks of nuclear power are ultimately uncontrollable. That's why the nuclear phase-out makes our country safer and avoids more nuclear waste, Germany's Environment Minister Steffi Lemke had said earlier at the end of March. The closure of Emsland, Neckarwestheim 2, and Isar 2 received a mixed response from Germans. While it was celebrated by anti-nuclear activists who had gathered outside the 3 power plants and at demonstrations held in Berlin and Munich, the plant personnel conducted more somber ceremonies to acknowledge the event. Why it matters. Germany's move to discontinue the use of nuclear power plants has been met with skepticism on both domestic and international levels, and there were many unsuccessful 11th-hour appeals to suspend the decision. Last year, when energy prices increased after Vladimir Putin limited gas supplies to Europe, the Olaf Scholz-led government became hesitant about closing the nuclear power plants by December 31st. Later, the Chancellor allowed a one-time deadline extension but insisted that the final shutdown would occur on April 15th.
And that's the end of that one there. Let's go next one here. This from CBS News. Leaked Pentagon documents takeaways. Here are details on what they review.
CBS News has reviewed over 50 documents that appear to be part of the leak of highly sensitive information. The documents' presence online prompted a criminal investigation that led to the arrest on Thursday of a 21-year-old Air National Guardsman. It's not known how many documents Teixeira is alleged to have leaked. The criminal complaint against him refers to dozens, and the Washington Post recently stated that it had reviewed about 300. CBS News has not authenticated the documents, though the Pentagon has acknowledged at least some of the leaked documents are real. How recent is the information in the documents? The majority of the documents CBS News has reviewed contain information from the end of February and the beginning of March. Who leaked the Pentagon documents? Jack Teixeira, a 21-year-old Massachusetts Air National Guardsman, has been accused of leaking the documents. Teixeira, of Dighton, Massachusetts, was arrested on April 13 and, according to the criminal complaint, has held a TS/SCI, top secret clearance, with access to sensitive compartmented information, since 2021. Are the documents from the CIA? While some of the documents that have been reviewed by CBS News appeared to originate from the Central Intelligence Agency, others seem to come from other agencies across the intelligence community, including the Defense Intelligence Agency and the National Geospatial Agency. These agencies collaborate with each other and others to collect, analyze, and share intelligence across the U.S. government. There are 18 intelligence agencies, all of which are overseen by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. What was in the Pentagon leak? A number of documents from intelligence agencies were disclosed, including information about the Russia-Ukraine conflict, China, Turkey, South Korea, and Israel. What do the documents say about the Russia-Ukraine conflict? There are maps detailing movements and figures relating to military capabilities on both sides of the conflict. One of the more pressing documents, dated February 23, states that Ukraine's BUK, SA-11 air defense systems will be depleted by March 31, 2023, and its S-300 SA-10 missile systems will be depleted by May 2, 2023. The Wall Street Journal found a leaked document dated 5 days later, February 28, which contained a slightly longer timeline that said Ukraine would run out of weapons for these systems on April 13 and May 3. This would pose a major challenge to Ukraine, leaving them vulnerable to air attacks by Russia. Another document estimates that while Russia's ground capability is at 63%, its air capability stands at 92%. In contrast, Ukraine's ground capability is estimated to be at 83%, while its air capability stands at 68%. This imbalance in fighter jets and other aircraft puts the Ukrainian army at a disadvantage. The documents also contain intelligence on casualties on both sides. Russia has sustained significantly more casualties than Ukraine, with an estimated 189,500 to 223,000 fighters killed or wounded in action. On Ukraine's side, losses are estimated to be between 124,500 to 131,000.
Okay, and there's more to read if you want to read the rest about it. What about the Wagner Group? Who was supposed to see the document and who prepared them? What do the documents revealed by China? It'll be in my description box. The link will go on the next one here. This from the Duchesne, Welly or whatever. North Korean tactical nuclear exercises raise tension.
Successful test launch of North Korea's most advanced missile has given Pyongyang significant new capability with which to threaten South Korea, the US, Japan. The Advanced New Solid Fuel Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, ICBM, fired by North Korea last week has triggered expressions of concern in South Korea and across the region. Analysts have warned that Pyongyang now has the ability to fire missiles that can hit targets as far away as the United States, and with little or no warning. The Hwasong-18 ICBM was fired from a mobile tractor-trailer unit that emerged from a road tunnel on the outskirts of Pyongyang shortly after 7 a.m. local time on Friday. The missile followed a lofted trajectory that saw the first stage fall into the Sea of Japan, 10 kilometers, 6.2 miles, off the coast of North Korea, followed by the second stage falling 355 kilometers out to sea. The launch was quickly identified by the South Korean and Japanese military, with authorities in Japan issuing a warning of an incoming missile via radio, television, and mobile phone across much of northern Japan. The alert was rescinded when it became apparent that the missile's trajectory would not cross Japanese territory. In the past, a number of North Korean missiles have traversed Japan before splashing down into the Pacific Ocean. The test was overseen by Kim Jong-un, the North Korean leader, his wife and young daughter, with the dictator expressing his delight at the successful launch, claiming enemies are imperiling the environment on the Korean peninsula and harassing the Korean people's peaceful life and struggle for socialist construction. Strike horror into enemies. The Korean Central News Agency quoted Kim as saying the new weapon would make the nation's rivals experience a clearer security crisis and constantly strike extreme uneasiness and horror into them by taking fatal and offensive counteractions. Global powers intelligence has long been concerned about the North's development of solid-fuel ICBMs, which are superior to previous generations of liquid-fueled missiles as they can be fueled during the manufacturing process. As they do not need to be fueled immediately before launch, solid-fuel missiles can be fired with very little warning, are more mobile and, consequently, more difficult to locate and destroy. The response from South Korea, Japan, and the United States has been rapid and firm.
Okay, and there's more to read if you want to read the rest of it there. The link will be in my description box. I'm going to the next one now. This one here said China State Shipbuilding. This is from 24/7 Wall Street. China State Shipbuilding Corporation is the fastest growing weapon manufacturer.
This article was written with the assistance of AI technology and has been edited and fact-checked by Meli Alizraki. China State Shipbuilding Corporation, or CSSC, is the world's fastest-growing military manufacturer, with its defense-related revenue increasing by 114% between 2017 and 2021, according to Stockholm International Peace Research Institute's report The SIPRI Top 100 Arms-Producing and Military Services Companies, 2021. Contributing to this massive growth is China's ballooning defense spending, which expanded over 70% over the past decade, as well as global military spending growth, which has increased by 12% over the past decade. American arms manufacturers are some of the biggest beneficiaries of the global boom in defense spending, with 7 of the world's 25 fastest-growing defense contractors based in the U.S. These include the largest arms producer, Lockheed Martin, and the 4th largest, Northrop Grumman. However, CSSC is quickly catching up thanks to its strong performance in recent years, moving up from 15th largest arms-producing company by revenue in 2020 to 14th largest. CSSC was founded in 1982. One notable weapon the company manufactures is the Type 730C dual gun and missile CIWS, close-in weapon system, which combine a Gatling gun and naval missiles.
Okay, and that's all I got on that one there. Go to the next one here. This one here says, this from Market Insider. Prepare for oil to rally as the Fed gets set to pause its rate hikes, JPMorgan says.
Since 1988, the final Fed rate hike has been followed by increases in the price of Brent crude 3 months later. In those instances, oil has returned 9% on average, according to a note from JPMorgan. Markets expect the Fed to raise rates one more time in May, then pause. Full screen. 1 of 9. Oil prices are poised to rally soon as the Federal Reserve is expected to pause its rate hikes, analysts at JPMorgan said. Since 1988, the final increase in a tightening cycle has been followed by increases in the price of Brent crude 3 months later, returning on average 9%, according to a recent note. JPMorgan predicts Brent will rise to $94 a barrel in the fourth quarter, up 9.5% from current levels. The main takeaway for now, if the Fed pauses its rate hiking campaign soon, the most likely scenario is that oil performs well, analysts said. Markets expect the Fed to raise rates one more time in May, lifting them by another 25 basis points to a target range of 5% to 5.25%, according to the CME FedWatch tool. But after that, no further hikes are seen. To be sure, oil eventually turned negative after Fed pauses in 2000, 2006, and 2018 were followed by recessions, JPMorgan pointed out. However, if the U.S. sees only a mild recession or lands softly, a new bull market may have already started forming, the note added. JPMorgan predicts such a recession to show up at the end of 2023, or in 2024. And as inflation could stick around 4% this year, the Fed is unlikely to cut its rates. But analysts expect demand for oil to stay resilient as the need for transportation fuel remains elevated and U.S. commercial crude inventories are starting to shift downwards. Others on Wall Street are less worried about a major recession as well, with BlackRock CEO Larry Fink crediting the large amount of federal stimulus as enough to rule out a hard landing.
Yeah, we'll be hurting. I'll see my APR, my credit cards going up again. We got to get rid of the Feds, take over the White House. Anyway, let's go to the next one here. This is from 1945. Meet the AK-74 rifle, more than an improved AK-47.
More than 75 years since it was first developed, the AK-47 has remained one of the most iconic modern firearms. It has appeared in countless films, been the subject of dozens of hip-hop songs, and since 1983 has been featured on the flag of Mozambique. Interestingly, until the 1990s, the Soviet-designed firearm wasn't all that well known, mainly because it was almost impossible to see a real one. Subscribe to 1945's new YouTube channel here. It should be noted that not a single AK-47 appears in the 1968 Vietnam War film The Green Berets, and the firearm was never even mentioned. In the wave of Vietnam films that followed, Chinese Norinco Type 56 copies often stood in for the AK-47. The firearm didn't take the world of pop culture by storm until the early 1980s, yet, by the time the world had heard of the AK-47, the Soviet Army had adopted the AK-74. AK-74, more than an AK upgrade. Though the select-fire AK-47 was introduced to Soviet units in the late 1940s, it took until the Hungarian Revolution of 1956 when Western military analysts had been able to take note of what had only been a rumored Soviet automatic weapon. U.S. soldiers and Marines, of course, would get a first-hand perspective of the weapon a decade later in the jungles of Vietnam. Then in 1974, a new rifle appeared in the hands of Soviet soldiers. It was certainly recognizable as an AK platform, and it had the general configuration of the AK-47. Firearms experts quickly noted, however, its eye-catching muzzle brake fitting, but also the new magazines that made the firearm distinct from the AK-47. While the AK-47 had been upgraded and improved as the AKM, Автомат Kalashnikova Modernizarovanish translated as Kalashnikov's automatic rifle modernized, in 1959, and which featured simpler individual parts that were favorable for mass production, the AK-74 was essentially a new design that built on the proven platform. Whereas the original AK-47 was chambered for the now venerable 7.62 by 39 mm cartridge, the AK-74 was developed to fire the smaller 5.45 by 39 mm cartridge, which offered significantly higher velocity. Soviet military analysts had seen the advantages of the small-caliber round after the United States military had shifted from the 7.62 mm used in the M14 battle rifle to the lighter 5.56 mm M16A1 in Vietnam.
Yeah, here's the rifles there. AK-47's image. And there's more to read if you want to read more about it. Go on the next one here. This is from news. Vladimir Putin orders Pacific Fleet to test missile launch, torpedo, and artillery fire.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is testing the readiness of his Pacific Fleet for a possible retaliatory nuclear strike against the West. The drills, which Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu revealed will take place at the naval base in Vladivostok, will involve firing rockets, testing the fleet's submarines, and assessing the preparedness of nuclear-capable strategic bombers. While the wargames have more minimalistic objectives like repelling supposed opponent attacks on Sakhalin Island and the Kuril chain north of Japan, the Pacific Fleet will also prepare to ward off massive missile and air campaigns, perform exercises to locate submarines, and carry out torpedo, artillery, and rocket launches. The drills are intended to evaluate the capability of the armed forces to solve the tasks of repelling the aggression of a potential enemy from oceanic and sea areas, per Russia's Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, via the Mirror. General Valery Gerasimov, the Kremlin's top soldier, has mentioned that Russia's marine forces will be placed on high alert throughout the drills and deployed to training locations, where they will conduct battle simulations. Russia's legislation has also been changed to allow the Kremlin to conscript school leavers as young as 18 into the military. According to the legislation, which has already been approved by the Duma, the Russian parliament, Russia can now sign up these conscripts and send them straight to the battlefront as part of its regular army. This paves the way for the recruitment of countless raw recruits, signaling Russia's readiness for a future of continuous war. The decision to hold surprise Pacific War Games is considered a deliberate show of strength to the West amid ongoing tensions between the United States, China, and North Korea. It is also a response to the growing military cooperation between the United States and Japan, with Russia concerned that it is being hemmed in by alliances. Russia's Pacific Fleet has been considered a lethal instrument of its armed forces since the Soviet era. The post-Vladimir Putin orders Pacific Fleet to test missile launch, torpedo, and artillery firing appeared first on news.
Okay, now we go to my last one here. This is from The Hill. Biden's economy is stuck between a rock and a hard place.
The Consumer Price Index data released on Wednesday suggests that inflation is continuing to slow. Prices increased 5% year-over-year last month, the smallest increase since May 2021, and just 0.1% from last month. This is ostensibly a welcome reprieve from 2 years of historically high inflation. But President Joe Biden, whose low approval rating is closely tied to Americans' pessimism about the economy, shouldn't breathe a sigh of relief. As Biden prepares to run for re-election in 2024, the economy is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Overall inflation may be slowing down, but so-called core inflation, which strips out volatile food and energy prices, actually rose 0.4% from February to March, meaning the Federal Reserve will likely continue raising interest rates, while the American economy teeters on the edge. That said, the Fed's efforts to tame inflation and cool off the economy do appear to be working. March's 5% increase in prices marked a deceleration from the prior month's 6% increase. Further, on April 10, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that the U.S. added 236,000 jobs in March, a notable drop from the 12-month average of 345,417. However, overall inflation is still more than double the Federal Reserve's 2% target, and continues to erode Americans' wages, as March marked the 24th consecutive month of wage decline in the U.S. Moreover, the Fed's aggressive actions have unintended consequences. Last month's collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, due in part to the Fed's campaign, will likely trigger a credit crunch, and economists now overwhelmingly predict that a recession will hit the U.S. within the next year, which would be in the middle of the 2024 election cycle. Throughout the better part of his presidency, the economy has been a major political vulnerability for Biden and will continue to be, despite declining inflation. Biden's approval rating on the economy is just 37%, per the Real Clear Politics polling average, and has been underwater since September 2021. By the time of the presidential election, Biden could very well have presided over a period of historic inflation, the second and third largest bank collapses in U.S. history, and a recession, which Republicans, absent a compelling economic message of their own, will tirelessly attack him for.
And there's more to read if you want to read the rest of it. And that's all I got for you for today. I hope I got something you can use or you like. And don't forget, I am Alan for today's news. We'll be reading, speaking about world news, interesting news, news to keep you entertained, and news to keep you informed. I thank you for watching. Until next time.